welcome back to Cast Me to Hell with me, Seb.
And me, Robbie.
And here we are with a continuation of our sorority summer slasher little saga we've got going on with Killer Party.
Yes.
1986?
Yes, another 1986 film.
Yes.
And I feel like this one definitely feels as if it's, very end of the golden age of slashers. It's...
Oh, yeah.
It's really struggling with it at some points.
This is, there are parts of this that I'm like, oh, actually, this is kind of, there's parts of this that are then done in other films decade later kind of thing that are like, oh yeah, you were a bit ahead of your time. It's messy, but it's a little bit ahead of its time. And then there are stuff that's just like a blender of everything that came to the point. Like this is the end when they started to struggle. This is like demon possession slasher horror comedy. It's literally like a multiple of genres that are literally thrown into this film and squashed together, with also the fact that it is technically it was going to be April. It was going to be called Fool's Day or April Fool's Day, but it was released it was going to be released just after April Fool's Day from a different studio, so they changed it to Killer Party, which you can tell right from the opening of this film why this was meant to be called April Fool's Day, April Fools. And it's also, this is in that odd, 1986 is that odd, this is the period when we started getting, where a lot of the slashers started to go more supernatural to try and match that, We had stuff after things had started to become popular, we had teen slashers and even sorority movies were popular, but then you also had, supernatural based ones that started to come through, and you had things like Fright Night that became popular and stuff like that caused another boom. And this is almost where it tries to take something like Fright Night and it tries to take the sorority slasher and it tries to Black Christmas and tries to go, let's just fucking mash that together and hope that something works.
Well, I was expecting it. So when we kind of put this season together, we looked at a few different films and we tried to get a bit of variety between obviously have that slasher core sorority theme, but in terms of storyline they all try to be a little bit different. And when I read about this one, which is about a group of sorority initiates who host some kind of swearing in ceremony or initiation ritual at this haunted house, and this vengeful demon possesses them and starts slashing them, making them kill each other, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be very Night of the Demons, which does have a similar-ish story where a bunch of teens stay in this former haunted house and they do a Ouija board and then one gets possessed and it starts to spread, a bit Evil Dead-ish. And I was expecting that from this, but instead I kind of got an hour of Porky's and then 20 minutes of, I don't really know, a very kind of lazy slasher, and then 10 minutes of Evil Dead, maybe.
I'd say Evil Dead, maybe. I was thinking more when Fright Night gets the actual vampire part,
a little bit,
a bit of that. It is a weird I don't know. I didn't hate this.
No,
I thought it was oddly fun in a chaotic, mad kind of way. There's a lot of parts that don't make sense in this film. There are bits that don't really follow through and just seem to be gone or changed around. And one thing I did read about this film is that, like many films around that area of the 80s, this one was one that was put forward to a lot of cuts in order to get its rating. So this was meant to be a gorier film than it actually ends up being. They were forced to cut basically a lot of the gore in order to get the rating they wanted at the time.
Which is a shame because it's not really gory at all.
Well, the sad thing is they cut it for this film to only... Apparently this film was only released in 5 theatres in America.
Oh, what?
So they cut it and then they didn't get the distribution they expected. Oh, that's my phone just sliding off the table. It didn't get the distribution expected, so they literally only got a tiny release in America. That's all they ended up getting, which is, odd, especially as it's got, it's even got a rock band in it that were fairly popular around the time. The rock band that also appeared in Fright Night and
White Sister,
and things like that. So it's kind of sad that you went for all that part to make it less gory, in order to obtain a wider, better release for the film to do better, and it still didn't get it. So
Yeah.
that kind of sucks for the film. Whereas something like April Fool's Day, the one was actually released, which was tame, but tame on purpose for a reason of the plot twist that's in that film. And then it literally, that one did far, far better than this one. I'm not saying because I haven't seen April Fool's Day, so I don't actually know.
I wasn't a fan.
I know the twist.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of it.
But I know that one is tame, but it is tame technically cutaways for a reason. There's a reason to that, and that comes later on, I believe. But this one is the reason there's a lot of cutaways and we don't see some of the slashing and the gore and stuff is sadly because it was cut down.
Yeah,
which kind of sucks.
And
it's not a big enough film for us later, all these years later, to go, let's find
let's get the cult classic.
Later,
Well, if you want to join the Cast Me to Hell sorority, make sure to hit that subscribe button, make your pledge, leave us a lovely review. It really does help the show grow. The first thing I thought of this was it opens up, and it's the kind of film that makes you say, hell yeah, brother, this is the 80s. You know, it makes me think that I'm Hulk Hogan. You know, I want to rip my shirt off. I want a hot dog skin. I want the handlebar mustache. It's got a great opening where, we're at a funeral.
It's got a meta opening.
It's got a very meta opening.
It's got a fuck you, Scream 4.
Yeah. So we open with this woman at a funeral, and then she starts like chastising
the gayest
priest.
Yeah,
the gayest priest ever. I was going to message you at one point and be like, is this the right
I was
film?
going to message you when I said that. I was literally going to message you like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
What is this? What this doesn't seem like. I was like, what is happening? Like I assumed. This is one of the things that actually kind of made me like this. Obviously, as I said, part of the idea behind this is April Fool, so it's kind of fucking with the audience, which is kind of cool to open a film like this. But also at the same time, it also shows an awareness, I think, of the sorority films that had come before it, because the majority of them always had some kind of backstory, something traumatic happened. Yeah. So I just assumed that this was just the traumatic beginning.
Yeah.
You know what
Somebody's
I mean?
died.
But I did straight away start being like, fucking hell, like the old man actor, he's hamming this up a bit. This is a bit over cheesy, and that priest, I do not believe that he's made it. I don't know, him and the other priest might have made it this far together in a very intimate way.
Sticking together. Yeah.
And he's also the most, in terms of not only that way, he's also the most I'm done. Kind of, let's go. I've never seen a service that ends with such a kind of, we're finished with this now. Well, you can go now. No, we're done.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
So it's a great opening where this woman kind of gets pulled into the casket by this undead body.
She's crying 1 minute, then goes back and says, I hate you. I hated your guts. I hope you burn in hell. Yeah. And then the casket, hands pull out the casket and start dragging her in as she's screaming. Is cool. And then shaking inside. And the guy's listening to music, so he's not even aware.
Yeah.
Even though he's shaking like fucking crazy.
They all shake. It's the after-death
shakes.
The cadavers don't like the furnace.
I like the fact that they give an excuse for him not hearing her screaming because he's got headphones on. But the dude that stood right next to him that has no headphones on whatsoever, who's the one who helps to guide it onto the thing, well, we'll assume he's deaf.
Yeah, he's deaf and blind. He's just there,
And his nerves are destroyed, so he can't feel vibrations.
He can't do anything. He's just there by the grace of God.
Somehow he's not walked straight into the he's not been cremated himself by literally just guiding himself right.
It's hot. I'll go inside here for a sleep. So she gets kind of burnt alive, and then we go to a couple watching it in a drive-in theatre. Yeah. And then that's another film or performance.
Who the lady who I thought was suddenly actually going to be our leading lady. Yeah. So again, this did catch off guard, so it is very cool in this way, I mean, she even opens with saying this is going to be a weird film. Yeah. This one so they kind of give a little on the nose thing there. But I liked this this lady in this part. I was like, she's a bit odd. She's a bit
she's a bit kooky.
A bit kooky. I kind of like the idea that she's our leading lady. So then when we follow her into she's like, well, first, of course, dude she's in the car with, he's trying to get that dick in.
Yeah, he's trying to pound.
And then, but she's like, no, I need some popcorn. So she goes to get some popcorn, and you do notice shots where everything around is kind of empty.
Which is quite cool, quite eerie.
It is. we get all of these empty parts, and she's like trying to get popcorn, and she's like, I'll give you a chance. No? Okay, free popcorn. He gets back to the car, and the dude is gone.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we get the dude appear at the window, smashing, and then suddenly we get this rock band in the middle of the diner, the White Sister, who just starts doing April Fools.
Well, the song is called April. You're No Fool.
Yeah.
And it's the drummer is banging.
They must have been so pissed when they've done all of this, and they're like, fuck, we can't call it April Fool.
Yeah.
Or April Fool's Day. For fuck's sake, we did a whole montage of this being a cool opening that is like an April Fool. And fucked us.
And so much of the film is based around pranks and initiations, and I was checking the time, and I think it's like an hour and 31 minutes, and at like an hour I think there'd been like 2 deaths and about 6 pranks.
Part of me also believes that this opening with like a scary montage and a death like in the very opening scene is to get you by, because there's not going to be a lot of death for a while. it effectively does turn into a bit. We'll get to it later, but there was meant to be another death.
Okay.
But they edited and changed it so that someone else could appear to the end of the film. We'll come back to that later when we get to the part when it should be. But
okay, I'm interested in
I'll leave that open and dangle to keep you listening.
dangle it. Yeah, so we're introduced to 3 kind of... And it's interesting because now we've got 3 sort of main protagonists, really. Vivia, Jennifer, and Phoebe.
Yeah.
And we do get a little snapshot of the sorority that they're trying to get involved in, where they've got a bar like goats, and there is like the queen bitch stereotype that we've said. I think she's also called Vicky in this as well, maybe, which seems to always come along. I think it's a bit. That's a queen bitch name.
Yeah, It's got we get the first introduction into the house and what they're like. We the segue from the music video into how we got you into the thing is it Phoebe watching the I think it's Phoebe. Yeah. Phoebe's watching the TV in the house, sort of like that. So little like a film within a film within a film. Yeah. Hence the Scream 4.
Fuck you, Scream 4. Yeah, we did it first.
We did it first. There you go. They did it before they stole it. And we get this you get this idea of them pledging towards that kind of part. We also get the set of the house of these girls who also get their own little theme tune when they're together as a group. This kind of horrible 80s song. Like, I'd say I weirdly started to find it catchy because I watched this once and then I did a quick fast forward through this film to remind myself of key points kind of thing. Yeah. But it has this really, when they did 80s songs thing, like the White Sister one, that's absolutely fine. We also get Casey and the Sunshine Band, which is a fantastic little bopper, but they only use it for 30 seconds. I was like, you paid for the best song that's in this film, but you only used it for a tiny amount of film. But this other song where it follows the girls as they go about the thing, which is like a light and refreshing little poppy music number, where the girls are riding on bikes or things like that, as they're going to their classes and stuff before they meet the queen bitch for her ideas of what they need to do for initiation. Yeah, and this plays through, but it's one of those horrible 80s songs where it's basically more talking than it is singing, and talking about how life and love and things like that. And she's doing little things. I was like, fucking hell, I forgot how bad some songs are.
there's bad
I can't actually remember what the name of the song is right now. But
I only remember White Sister, April, You're No Fool, and Casey and the Sunshine Band, Give It Up. Apart from that, I quite like Schools, but this I just didn't get any of it.
There wasn't really much. I do remember a bit of the score at times, but it kind of came and went. It kind of would go up at certain times. One interesting part is the Jennifer character, who is technically our leading character, I'd say, who's more pushed more. Yeah, because they are. It's edited to be a trio, which I'm not sure was necessarily always the idea. I think that was pushed a little bit more later. But Jennifer is more of the main one we're following, because we follow her as she kind of goes after this initiation part. We kind of mainly follow her as she's doing certain things, or she's the main center point quite often.
Definitely.
But she is one thing I do like about this film is that we get kind of more of a trio. It's not necessarily I'm saying Jennifer is the main, maybe, because she's the one that is the doomsayer character. she's kind of the one that's saying like, I don't think I should do this. Like, we see her going to the sorority, and she's like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to quit, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's the girls that make her just persuade her to keep going, kind of thing, as they go through that. And you get the part following. Well, pretty much not long after this is when we get the first Porky's part.
I thought
this is when we get Casey and the Sunshine Band, because we basically get a montage of going into a hot tub.
Girls in the hot tub. Mrs. Henshaw.
No, we don't get the full-on nudity yet, but it's coming in a minute. Yeah, you get your Mrs.
Mrs. Henshaw,
who's the lovely, like, not like the Mrs. Slater of our previous film of House on Sorority Road. No, instead we've got Mrs. Henshaw, who's lovely and things, and she's like warning them not to go to the haunted house, or at least not just yet.
Don't go to the old sorority house. Don't do anything there.
We'll come back to her in a minute. But then we get this full-on where we get a delivery driver who's dropping off champagne from a sorority to the sorority girls at the house.
I love that.
Even though this lad, and you can tell straight away this lad is from the sorority house, which they apparently have been dealing with all year long, so I'm surprised they don't recognise him.
Well,
he's not really hiding it, he's not doing an accent, he's just the way he is in the scene we see him later, he's just that, but you know.
It's like Hitman, you know, they change into an outfit and suddenly nobody recognises them.
Suddenly no one knows who you are.
Nobody
You're a
knows who you
different
are.
Person.
And he does look like every kind of New York person in the 70s and 80s, where he's got like slightly longish hair.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm driving here.
I'm walking here. He does look very kind of stereotypical. But I love that scene. He comes in with the champagne. Yeah. Instantly, you know what he's up to. No good. Yeah. He takes the door handle off. Yeah. And then I'm thinking, okay.
The fact that the door handle just so easily like pops off in his hand. Like...
I mean, it's a student house. Yeah. It's like, that's not surprising at all. If anything, it's the fact that this has a door. I'm amazed by.
Again, there is a thing about this film where I can almost say that this almost fits, removing the demon possession part of it, this film almost fits more perfectly than any of the other films, kind of what you would expect if someone said, right, an 80s sorority film.
Yes.
This one has more elements of actually like being in classes, day-to-day sorority life, what they have to do, initiation, and all of those other elements of like the pranks and the hazing and stuff. This is probably, out of all of the ones we've done, the most whole kind of sorority actual aspect of what you'd expect from the 80s, including gratuitous nudity that's not needed, pranks that are just dumb boys doing dumb shit, and later on, what I would just consider him as rape.
Yes.
We'll come back to that one.
It's the 80s. They call it something else.
One major dorky character
who just wants to fuck.
Yeah.
I gotta admire him. You know, he wants to fuck. He'll go for it. He'll get anything going.
But he's the character that most people would be watching and be like, for fuck's sake, like, I hate
just
this
kill
guy.
him.
Like, just die.
Yeah. But the prank where he goes, you know, this delivery driver goes back to the van and he opens it, and all of these like sorority kids, jocks, start pouring out of the house. You've got the big lad and the skinny lad.
You've got the majority of handsome men, and then you've got the two nerds who are obviously the ones that plan half of this stuff out. They keep the nerds around for that reason. So you've got the big lad, and then the really small. There's always a specky little.
There's always a specky twat and a big lad. Yeah. You know,
and
like
these guys are bringing some beads around behind the hot tub.
I love
that. The fact that, you know, I love the fact that. I mean, this may be a thing, but I just love the fact that apparently just lasses in the 80s, you know. I mean, I'm not saying that lasses don't do this now. Tell us if you do. Yes. But do you tend to go naked into the garden and put yourself into a hot tub, you know, and all hot tub together naked in the garden? Yeah. That seems a concept that seems weird to me, because they're not even in bikinis or anything like that. It's just, I'm just nude in the garden while my house mother brings us lemonade.
An old woman brings us lemonade. Yeah. I mean, the old woman's probably thinking, I've had a female body.
I don't even think of the majority of the time that women, like 80s movies just seem to assume that women just, you know, just basically walk around naked in the shower rooms, like happily naked, just walking around. And again, I don't know. Maybe this is an American culture thing where they're not that much. But in Britain, we are shy and we hold ourselves away. And I'm not getting my knob out if I don't need to.
I'm not getting. Unless it's a knob out situation, you know, I'm not getting.
If I'm getting that out, I'm very quickly like pants down, get the other ones on as fast as
Yeah.
possible. I'm not looking modest or anything like that. I'm not trying to show anything off. But apparently in American ones, they just show it as, here's my knob, I'm just walking through this locker room kind of thing.
Well,
Look at my
they're
big
all,
knob.
you know,
Unless
they're all
obviously
corn-fed.
Unless you got the micro penis.
Yeah. They're all corn-fed, so they've all probably got absolute hogs.
Yeah,
which is why they're
absolute
always
massive.
naked, you know. Damn Americans.
But yeah, so they release the bees,
I
and
love
then
that.
the girls, as they're filming, the girls just start flying out and running around naked. They run up to the door. Sorority sisters like, I can't let you in. The door's been like, you know, as they're like all screaming around and running for it. We have the guys that start appearing from all around the fence and so on,
Yeah.
including one dude who literally falls off the top of the van
Yeah.
from one side. And I'm just like, the trajectory of you, the way you just fell, lad. I'm pretty sure you break your neck.
Breaks his neck.
I'm pretty sure one of them just died.
Ah,
And then it's like, fuck it,
fine.
who cares? We got some images of some girls and their tits.
Yeah.
that
Someone
we will
used to die
use.
in a prank. That's
Yeah.
the way in which it has to go.
Well, technically, that is part of the
This part of the story.
the killer, the backstory that never really is delved into very much at all in this story, apart from a few mentions.
Well, we get, whilst this is kind of going on, we do get a scene that I really liked where Miss Henshaw goes round to the house and
Yeah.
she's kind of sees this tombstone
She says she's checking it for the girls to make sure it's like
secure
and safe.
and she sees this tombstone and it's for this chap called Alan, and she's saying like, look, if the women come here, like, please leave them alone, you know, just don't bother with them.
You need to let it go.
And then there was a scene that I did really like where she kind of goes into the house.
Yeah.
And she's like sitting there, she's doing something, and there's a scene where you see a hand raise a hammer.
Well, she is fixing stuff as well. It's
Yeah.
like she starts fixing something. So you get the hand raising the hammer, which is...
Well, that leads into her fixing, because it comes down and you think, oh, she's getting her head fucking bonked open.
getting hammered.
But she is hammering.
Yeah.
She's doing the hammering, not being hammered. And then, as she's kind of repairing, we see somebody come in, and we get their classic 80s. Oh, it's you. What are you doing here? Bam,
Yeah.
she dies.
Yeah, the bam.
The bam. And then it effectively comes into this weird, like, hazing ritual where the girls have to drink eggs. And
Well, they've had things set for them, haven't they? Like,
Yeah.
they need to go into the beta whatever, the lad's house, and get a beta towel or something like that.
Yeah,
and
one
go
of the
and
tops.
get,
Billions
go
and
and get
trillions.
some tops. And that's when Jennifer makes one dude who's forced to kiss, but it seems like she's actually quite happy to kiss this. Don't know, he's a bit of a Billy Loomis looking motherfucker.
he's a little Billy, you know.
He looks, he's a bit
Prototype bully.
not shaven, kind of like looking a bit rough around the edges, but
Yeah.
also like, you want a piece.
You want a piece, yeah.
So they get those ones, and you've got as they've got that as a hazing ritual, and then they go into the actual goat night.
Yeah.
But before that, we get the geeky, awkward character. We've got the scene where they're told that they need to say, sleep with basically I prefer a big fat cucumber.
Yeah.
Where she says that to the professor, and you get that kind of odd comedy kind of scene where first it's like seems serious because he's like, basically get out. And
Yeah.
then the girls leave with him. And then you get the jokey part where it's like, and anyone else who wants to go, and just everyone
Yeah,
leaves,
and everybody goes.
except for Martin,
Yes.
who is our little geeky character who follows the girls around.
Good old Martin.
And who's asking her about, who's asking that, and then follows after they drop the book outside, after they've gone and got the t-shirts.
Yeah.
He brings it to Jennifer. You get this odd scene of them outside the door. But there's one thing that happens between these scenes, and we get several shots of this multiple times, which is basically where we get the idea of we don't really know what's happening with this Alan, who was the one who died. But all we get is this person standing outside the door who is with shoes.
Yeah.
Who's scratching his feet with his shoes like that's partially like a bit rough looking Converse or something like that, and he's scratching his feet, and we get a couple of shots of basically this feet that he's scratching, and someone who's following them, who you assume is the killer, basically, who's watching them from afar, and whoever killed Miss Henshaw.
Yeah.
Like, you assume that is who it is, kind of thing, that's following them around. And this is the first of one odd, to get to later, of the first moment of a visual of someone who doesn't pan out or seem to go anywhere. I assumed, based on this now, because we see this before Martin goes to the house, and this is the last time we see it before Martin, but before this we'd seen it several times, someone standing watching and scratching their feet with their other foot. Like, it's this odd little moment. So assume that that's that. So my assumption is that this is Martin going into the house then. But just to go towards like parts like that, like killer and possession and stuff that we find later, I'm going to jump to that purely because this then applies that whoever was that person was the person who at this point in the film was killing. Kind of thing. Because this is before Jennifer has shown any signs of any
demonic possession.
And we know that Mrs. Henschel recognises the person whoever it is. So this is one of those weird, like, are we doing a whodunit here or are we not? Who's the and this is more me raising the question because this is something that runs throughout is who the fuck is the killer? Like through most of this film, like we'll come back to that more later when we get closer to that point. But it's the question of who is the killer? Because this is an odd, weird sticking point in this film for me. Of like, it seems to do things that are pointed out towards as who is the killer, but it actually doesn't really explain it or really make sense of who was or who had been the killer. Because we have a possession element here, which again isn't revealed. We get the first idea of that soon at the goat night.
But the goat night's interesting because they have to put these eggs in their mouth. They have to do all this shit in bar, and then we get the first kind of prank. And at this point, I was like, oh fucking hell, this is going somewhere. So we have like this, something explodes whilst they're doing these pranks, and then there's noises in the basement. And Vivian, I think it is, the one with glasses, is like, you know what? It could be like a burglar or whatever it is. I want to see who it is.
She comes forward as quite. I like Vivian.
Yeah, I thought Vivian was
Vivian was quite. Apparently, she was also in a film we mentioned last time. Wasn't on Final Exam. We mentioned that. Neither of us have seen Final Exam.
I haven't seen Final Exam.
But she apparently is also in Final Exam. They're the only two films she ever did, which was odd because I thought of all of them, she had quite a screen presence. She kind of at first I thought she was like Courtney Love or something.
She's got
she looked a bit like that.
But she goes down into the basement, and then we get this scene.
We had all of the glasses start shaking, and we get a couple of things like where people are like freaking out around each other. So that she heads down there saying, "I look like she's more of a I don't believe in any of this.
I don't believe in no ghost.
I'm going down there." And then, so they start to go down. Jennifer starts to say, like, I'm going to go as well, being the good friends kind of thing. But in the middle of that hazing, when they're all saying and screaming, is the first time Jennifer shows a sign of some kind of something weird. Because we just assume it's part of the prank kind of thing, I guess, afterwards. But she shows this moment when she tosses her head back and she makes a weird growl, and her eyes, you see them change for a second, and then she kind of goes back to normal kind of thing. So it's the first idea of getting like a possession. So that's the other inkling of who may be, I guess, involved, or why is Jennifer getting a weird possession moment for a second kind of thing. And then Jennifer's the one that's first to go down to the basement, but you have got, did we confirm that it's Vicky or is it not Vicky? I don't know.
I can't remember.
Whoever's in charge of this, of the leaders of the girl pack,
Veronica, which is
also
a sorority bitch.
V names, Veronica. Also, even though she's acting very bitchy towards them, and she does put up this pretense thing, one thing I would say about Veronica is she doesn't actually necessarily do things that are out and out bitchy, like horrible to everyone else. Unlike most of the other main mean girls in these ones we've watched, where they've done something really quite horrible to them, or done. She does something where she undermines her. She's a bit of a prick, but she's like leading all of the girls and stuff like that. But also, even in this moment, she with Jennifer, she's like, could let her just go down by herself, but she said no, we'll all go together kind of thing. So there's still a little bit of a, at least she, like, out of a lot of them, she feels more like a leader and less like more just like the head of a pack. You know what I mean? Like in the other ones, it feels more like Vicky in, was that horror? Sorry, Hazmat.
I think it was Vicky.
Like in that one, she mainly was the leader because she was basically the biggest bitch.
Yeah.
Not because she was necessarily the leader of the, like, sorority. Whereas this one is more, she actually is, Veronica is the leader of the sorority, and therefore she does at times do things to be like, actually, as if she's looking out for the other people in the house.
Yeah.
It's more the one that stands out. Vivian is the one that she more picks on a little bit, because I guess she's the one that's defined as not your standard looking sorority.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I loved it. They go down at it, and that's when they see the machine.
Yeah, Vivian.
The trap
in
thing.
the guillotine.
Vivian's in there, and then literally, like, as it cuts to that thing, and we just see the head roll
It's super
towards
cool.
him. And it turns out it's a prank by Vivian.
Yeah, and it's super cool. You know?
It's a cool idea. It's saying that. And there's another thing. So, in the original script, the actor who played Vivian said this is when she died. She actually died. She was actually dead in this scene. So that was an actual prop originally made to be her death scene. But they decided to keep Vivian in the scene because I think they liked the way that the trail was working.
Yeah.
But some of it had already been filmed, so they had to edit around certain scenes to make it work so Vivian was actually remained in the
Interesting.
film. So it's an odd thing. So that's well, actually the actress who played Phoebe said that originally we filmed the death scene of this character.
Yeah.
And through some good editing, we managed to edit her back in so she makes sense in the scene. Which actually, after I've read that, and I read that after I watched the film, makes sense in a couple of scenes because you actually see shots where it seems as if it should just be Phoebe and Jennifer and not Vivian.
I didn't pick
So she
up
gets
on
like separate shots
Yeah.
of just Vivian, like
Yeah,
going through
definitely.
the house.
Yes.
Like when you first see her.
yeah.
And then there are certain ones. But I was like, but they made it sound like they just edited it. I was like, there's no way they didn't reshoot some of this
They
if
must
that was the
have,
case
yeah.
though, because I think it's more they edited the parts that had already been filmed to make it work, which I'm thinking maybe towards the end of the film certain scenes had already been filmed. So they edited it to make Vivian appear there.
Maybe.
But there are certain scenes that had to have,
Yeah.
to have her in it, kind of thing. Or they just changed who the character was, I guess, who was screaming in the ambulance, for instance, later.
Yeah, they just left that. So it kind of goes through like a little bit of a it drags a little bit here for me. I find you get the bit with where they do the great guillotine death, and then we get some kind of exposition from
With the professor.
from the
snooty
professor.
who,
Yeah, snooty professor
The
who
snooty professor, yes.
says that
Because that's when the scene with the girls' footage, like what they were planning to use it for, is for the new sorority leader of the house, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Who seems like he's going to come in with a whole set of rules of how he doesn't like any of this. But again, it's one of the few scenes when you get I was part of the sorority when that sad case of that boy and
I hate hazing.
This is that's all we really get about this Alan character. Really, is just like he was part of the prank that went wrong. We don't like when you hear stuff like that. Sometimes you think, "Oh, we're gonna get a flashback of the death or something like that, or we're gonna get something like that." But really, it's just mainly just occasional mentions like, "Oh, he was part of that hazing," or "That boy died," or "Oh, it was an accident. Prank gone wrong." That's pretty much all you get.
Well, they mentioned the guillotine and that it went missing. And
Yeah,
they haven't, nobody found the machine since.
But here it is down in the basement, all
yeah.
set up and with machinery and everything. It's electronically plugged in, so it goes up and down and everything.
Well, I think we find out.
Well, I thought he was going to get the guillotine though, but he doesn't get the guillotine, does he? He gets electrocuted.
Yeah, he gets electrocuted. I think we do find out that like Alan was into the occult and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But and that people have disappeared in the house, but it never really goes
doesn't
anywhere.
go
You don't find
much
much
into it.
flashbacks.
It's kind
or
of
anything.
quick, then and gone kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just one who did research.
And with this is again like you said before. This is only disregarding the opening scenes. This is only the second death between Essential and the thing here. We're pushing into about an hour into the film now.
Yeah, it's really kind of.
It has a good setup though. For it to be an hour into the film, I think there is quite a lot of setup to get to this point. But from this point is when we get to pretty much towards the part. Well, no. First we get the girls actually knowing they're accepted into the fraternity with the goat eyeballs in the boxes. To find out that, and we find out that Vivian's only actually been accepted by Veronica. This is the most bitchy thing Veronica does, is basically tell her only because of that prank is the only reason you got into this house. Like,
don't celebrate too much
because we want you to do another April Fool's prank. And then we get a stab that that's the idea. But apart from that, it's mainly now. Apart from we get the idea that actually Martin and Vivian are actually a thing.
Yeah. Well.
There's one scene with Martin. She shows off that head.
Yeah.
that she made for the prosthetic. And there's a scene where Martin's in the car, and I can't remember what they've gone to do, but they've all gone off and left him in the car with the head, and he kind of goes towards it to have a look. And a minute ago he like drove on the curb because he was so scared of it. But the look he gives here in my head is not like do I look at it because I'm scared of it? It's more of that guy who's like sat there like staring at it, slowly moves closer. It's like as if, does that have a workable mouth?
Yeah, he just unzips his fly.
Like it literally looks like he's more interested. Like he has a look back at it less scared and more like what can I do to that head?
Yeah, he's going to do a high tension.
Like he's going to make love to that head.
Yeah, it's an odd scene. But yeah, when we get to the actual party, it just seems to be like, let's do another few more pranks. So they do it where they make it look as if the house is haunted. And Jennifer gets dragged down into the basement.
Yeah, that's the obvious setup.
But then also,
again, with Jennifer though, we get another quick flash of a possession as well. Right?
Yeah, she freaks out a little bit.
Like where this is another kind of prank. And it seems, again, we've got the idea that basically these keep popping up whenever they are doing a prank or a hazing kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it is kind of, again, linked to the whole Alan is pissed off because he died due to this stupid pranking and hazing stuff that happens at colleges, basically.
Yeah.
That seems to be like a main motive that we get of any motive we get is that it happens because he's obviously pissed off about the pranking and the hazing kind of thing.
Yeah. But then we get another prank where two of the chaps...
Their prank doesn't really fully go down, does it? Because it feels like there's more to it than what actually happens, kind of thing.
Yeah, they just kind of
She does that bit, but then suddenly the boys take over because... whatever his name is, the main lad.
Yeah.
He's the main honcho of the house, the one that Veronica's telling Phoebe, like, don't go with him, because Phoebe is already like, that's the dude I want to fuck.
That's my pipe. Yeah, they kind of do a prank, and I think
where he's like, throat has been cut, basically.
Where he's been
like,
stabbed, yeah. And this is like an hour into it, an hour and 5 minutes, and we've had two kind of proper deaths, Miss Henshaw and the professor, and both of those were kind of off screen, not really that interesting. And
it feels like this is, well, I guess the party is always when you think this is right, so this is going to be the third act bloodbath, basically.
Yeah, the third act bloodbath, but in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because once the kills start, it almost gets to a point where, for me, they didn't really know what they wanted to make, because we just get a scene where one of the sorority sisters is killed by person dressed in a diving suit with a trident, and I was thinking, where the fuck did you get a diving suit?
Where the fuck did this come? And this is
I
mentioned in our last episode, where we said about basically the fact that in the last one, the Sorority House Massacre, they had the thing to just go with he's just a dude.
Yeah.
We don't need to make up some shitty costume. We're not going with that 80s trend of having to come up with another crappy costume just because they need to be in a costume. And this one has one where it hides them off screen for a good portion of the film, partially, I guess, with the weird feet thing is all we get. And then we get this, which is they finally don some kind of a costume to hide again who they are.
Yeah.
So we're still going with the whodunit kind of, I guess, even though this is a very kind of weirdly played part of this film.
Yeah.
And this is the costume that they're now going to go around killing people. They're going to be fucking Aquaman.
It's so weird. It's like Scooby-Doo.
It is literally Scooby-Doo here. It's like, why did we choose this costume? How is this the easiest costume that you could wear? And because of what comes after it, the idea that this is possession-based technically, it's also like, who were you possessing? Because it's not Jennifer.
It has to be Jennifer.
Well, it has to be, but it can't be Jennifer because we see this the same time we also see Jennifer with the bloke in the room. So it can't be the same time. Like, I was like, it would make sense to Jennifer, but I went back and looked, and the Jennifer in the room with the lad plays out. This plays out the same time that she's meant to be in the room with the lad. So they've fucked themselves on the editing there anyway. Which again would make sense anyway, because this is the part where I think that they've struggled with making it all work together and they're fucked out. It should be Jennifer. It makes sense to be Jennifer, even though Jennifer also doesn't make sense to be the one who was scratching her feet and things like that, which would give you the implication that either that was meant to just be Martin and that was their way of introducing Martin, but again, I tried to look, but they never showed his feet, so I couldn't actually...
see if there's his shoes.
You know, because that seems, scratching the feet seems like a Martin thing to do, but I also don't know if the scratch of the feet's meant to be because it's like he's taken over someone else's body, so it's meant to be more like the uncomfortableness of something.
Yeah.
I feel like there's scenes that are either missing here that were meant to explain this, or set up the idea that different people were possessed to get to Jennifer. Or it's like at the end here, it only makes sense that it must have been Jennifer killing these people in that costume. Why she dons that costume?
I don't know. She's got,
because she does after this point kind of disappear for quite a large section because they don't know where she is.
No.
So it's got to be Jennifer. But I'm just saying at this point that kill doesn't make sense because Jennifer is somewhat a completely different part of the house. She's upstairs in the house.
Yeah.
When this happens, like off to the side and downstairs of the house. So yeah.
But
it's got to be Jennifer.
It's got to be. But the kills come thick and fast because this woman dies by like trident.
Yes,
and then
death by trident.
Yeah, and then Veronica gets killed with a hammer, and then somebody gets a guillotine, and you're thinking, okay, look, the guillotine's been built up. We're going to see the head flying off. We're going to see that, but really, you just see the blade go down.
It goes down and comes back up.
It rises with blood on it.
Yeah,
and that's the problem. Like one of my things. It's so kind of tame with the kills, unfortunately.
This is the sad thing of I mean, and again, there's no description of how much was actually cut, what scenes were cut, what gore we would have seen. All I know is that it says that the MPAA in America cut the scene to make it from like a whatever it is, like an R-rated, so it didn't go to an X-rated or whatever because of the gore. But still, at the same time, this is the hard thing. Like when you watch these films and you've gone through the the 80s, where let's be honest, there's some amazing practical special effects that have gone on, and you've got films like the start of the 80s, literally 1980, Friday the 13th. And then loads of horrors that followed that, or any of the Friday the 13th films with that, but loads of horrors around that where they had some great gory special effects of people. To get to the point when every death is just cut off, it just makes these films feel like oddly tame, because let's be honest, this is the kind of film where gratuitous gore is okay.
Yeah, well,
it can ruin some films and it makes them feel a little bit understated. There are some films when the cutaway works because the story. It works kind of with the story, and it works with the tone of the film, and it works with the style of the film. So you can accept the fact that you're not seeing full-on gore of someone's head being like splitting off or something like that, or someone's head being taken off. But with this kind of film, this is schlocky horror at its best. This is 80s camp as hell horror.
Yeah,
it should have to make it into it like it would rise it up easily for anyone a star rating alone just by having a couple of shots of gore or death.
And it's strange you mentioned Friday the 13th because the screenplay for Killer Party was written by Barry Cohen, the same guy who wrote the Friday the 13th final chapter, which has got some good kills in it. You've got Crispin Glover with the corkscrew through the hand and the machete in the face.
That's why I can't imagine that this didn't have in the script gore deaths, but for some reason... and that could include them just being cut out, but it never sadly made it to like the screen like that, which is sad because it does bring down, because even though and the other thing is this film, again, one thing we had against House on Sorority Row was the lack of different styles of death. In fact, it was so samey. Was one of the major problems with that original film. This film actually has a range of different styles of, you've got hammer deaths, you've got electrocution, you've got the guillotine, you've got fucking spears and trident. Sorry, trident. Don't like bigger than that. Trident. So there's a range of ways people die. And all kinds of people stakes through the heart, things like that.
Yeah.
But sadly, when you do all those different styles, it's brought down if you don't see anything more than it just being rised up and brought down.
Yeah.
It just feels like it lacks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For this kind of film, like if you're willing to show a naked parade of ladies running through a back garden, but you're not willing to see someone get their head lopped off on then it's a bit like, Yeah, you come to a horror movie for one of those. It's just disappointing, I think. For this kind of one, there are certain horrors you just come to because you want to see it. Part of what you want to see is just over the top cheesiness, gore, and those things need to be there to make it work. And for whatever reason, sadly, that didn't happen.
Well, there's a lot of off-screen deaths as well. So when
there's loads of bodies, yeah,
loads of bodies.
Later.
Like there's the Billy Loomis-esque guy is just like in the bath. Somebody else is dismembered and in the fridge. Yeah. There's another woman who's killed, and I
think that's going to be the head of the lad who gets guillotined in the fridge. Yeah,
no, I think it's the guy. I don't know if it's him or if it's the guy, because there's one who opens the fridge and he gets his hand cut.
Oh,
cuts off. So I wasn't sure if it was him.
Yeah, which is one of the few bits we actually get to see what looked like it should have been an effect.
Yeah,
where it comes down, but again, it doesn't fully turn it completely going off. No. It cuts off. They'd made a prosthetic there.
Yeah, they
with a fake prosthetic. That was. I've just swapped my glasses off.
Yes, but yeah, you can see very clearly that it's like a prosthetic hand.
And that was meant to be cut for a gory shot on the scene. So that's like one of the few shots you could be like, that was definitely meant to be. Like, that would have been a gory shot.
Yeah, which is a shame because I think, despite the kind of like the pacing issues, I feel like the gore would have made up for it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Because I think I would raise this if those scenes were cut and those scenes still exist in, Arrow Video or whoever does all of these restorations. If they have done a version and they can add back in those scenes if they can be found, then I think this would raise this up a bit more.
Yeah, I also have problems with the actual possession part because it's genuinely advertised as this killer brutalizing them at this sorority house.
Yeah, and
it's like a possession film for the last 10 minutes where Jennifer does reveal herself to be the possessed killer.
The house is full of the dead.
Yeah.
And Vivian and Phoebe are the only ones remaining.
Yeah, which I like that we get a bit, and I do like the ending. Yeah. I just feel like I wish that would have been a bit more of the film, because we get some interesting parts where Vivian and Phoebe are running up the stairs, and then Jennifer kind of like somehow breaks all of the stairs. Yeah. And then she starts like crawling up the wall.
Yeah.
Which how they do it. It doesn't look particularly great, but conceptually it's a
some
cool
of them
idea.
look okay. When she's like dangling off of the
chandelier,
I was like, that's kind of cool looking. But it just is. It's such a. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, fair play. The whodunit at this point in the 80s had been done to death. We are at the days going with this again. You've had a lot of like Friday the 13th, which at this point had gone towards much more supernatural, as in like Jason Lives and stuff like that, and lots of them had done a little bit of a supernatural. The Halloween films had got to the point when they started linking more into that kind of area as well. It started to got to that point where this was also the death of the slasher film at that point, because it started to go to the point where it's like slasher's not enough anymore. It has to be.
There needs to be.
They've got uncreative with it. They'd hit a brick wall and they went, right, we need to bring other elements. So this is like bad in that way, but also the idea of a whodunit where the supernatural basically a supernatural thing is possessing people to get revenge for his thing.
Yeah.
And I think if it had been fleshed out and it had been the idea that basically it had been possessing different people throughout the film in order to get to this point, that would be I'd be like, okay, I can accept that as an explanation kind of thing, because this film's so like weird anyway that I can go with this. I can flow with this kind of thing in this film, with what you've set out with the tone of this film. But what I've got problems with the fact that it never really explains any of the stuff.
Never goes anywhere.
Doesn't explain any of the stuff like of the hints of the killer earlier in the film, and then with Jennifer. The Jennifer part's fine. I kind of like the fact that who is technically, I guess, what should have been the final girl is basically the one that becomes the killer and the possessor.
I like that.
Because she's so underplayed in the film. She's so kind of, she is that straight character.
Yeah.
She is the doomsayer character thing. So for her to turn out to be the killer is a perfectly fine kind of twist. That bit works well. It's just this bit when we're just being chased around by it, I found got very boring very quickly.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. That's probably good that it's only about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's not long.
Because they very quickly get out of the house and they start beating Jennifer to death with a wooden stick.
First they're like, can we save her? And then then they're going to beat her with a stick. And then they hold back at the idea that when Jennifer's actually basically you need to kill me to stop it. Which is also in my head kind of like, well, I think the police are on the way. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something that can be done here, but they're just like,
well, I think you're fucked anyway.
Yeah, I think she is anyway.
Because what do you say? Oh, demon
she's
kills
possessed.
everyone.
Yeah,
You know, it doesn't
mental facility and
doesn't
locked
fly
away anyway. But
yeah.
But I do like one element, which is the fact that Phoebe kills her and
I like
stabs
that.
her through the
I
heart,
like
which
it.
is a cool kind of impactful kind of part at the end there. And then you've got Vivian and Finn. But what I do like is the fact that they think by this ends it all. And
Yes.
then you've got the possession that actually he's just jumped straight into Phoebe.
Which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
I like the ending.
I like the ending. I like when she's like Vivian screaming in the ambulance and Phoebe like with the eyes and stuff like that. It's just like the fact that you get like the basically civilians who are just like at the side, like walking up to the window, like what the fuck. But all of the people in the ambulance, all the police are not like, oh, why is the victim of a horrible thing screaming at the other person who survived this horrible thing about don't put me with her kind of thing. Nah. The fact that the police wouldn't be like, she was just stood over the body of someone else. Like when when the police come up to him, she was stood over the body of someone who'd been stabbed through the heart kind of thing, who they have no idea who the killer is or anything. But they just decide that we're going to take these two victims, either all who also could be the killer. We're going to put them together. We're going to stick them there. This one's going to be over the top of this one who we've kind of pinned down so she can't do shit.
Yeah, good idea.
It seems like a really great plan by the police. Like, generally shit. Like, although I do like the fact that we get to see the aftermath in terms of like they're pulling out dead bodies back one by one. And we see that kind of part. I just think that, again, this is a classic case of horror where police are just like, what the fuck? What are you doing? Like, literally, like, it's the other people who are just coming off the street who are literally like, should we be concerned about the lady in the ambulance? She's screaming her fucking out. The people in the ambulance are also like, nah, she's fine.
She's fine.
She's alright.
Well,
she's got a knife to her throat about like that.
Yeah, she's fine. I like the bit where it's revealed that Alan's spirit has jumped into Phoebe and she's saying, like, I made you kill your like best friend. All because you played these tricks and you did all of it and it's all on you. Yeah. I thought that was quite fun.
Yeah, well, that is the one little part of the explanation there, really, isn't it? Where it has him basically saying, like, he basically implies that you don't deserve to get away with all of this because you're the one who did you set up a prank. You think you just get away with this. Yeah. You don't get, which again implies that basically his motive most of the time was whoever was basically fucking around doing pranks is who he kind of hates. Yeah. But obviously at the party he was a freak.
That's all of them.
Like, that's all of them.
But I wonder what the original ending would have been if Vivian was supposed to have died earlier.
Not in there kind of thing.
Yeah. Then how would this movie have ended?
Yeah, that's what's very unclear in what the people are saying, because the one who played Phoebe didn't say who the character was. The one who played Vivian said that she died in the early prank, but the only thing the one who played Phoebe said was that the person died who, like, basically there was a scene like where earlier on they do the prank and the person gets killed. Yeah. And basically this is where the two quotes have been put together, and they've said that from all the things that have been said over the years, it has to be Vivian, because Vivian said she died earlier in the film and that. But in terms of how that was edited and stuff, or how that was changed, Phoebe says the film was just edited to make it work. Other people, so there's a little bit of some kind of spots of like, I don't know how they did this, but apparently in the script Vivian dies when that prank bit happens earlier. Yeah. And she's not in the end. So it must have been either a different character, or they changed the ending because they kept Vivian alive.
Yeah, I wonder.
But one thing I do wonder though is we've got the screaming in the ambulance. One thing is, but again, if you look at the shots of the screaming, it's got her being put into the car, but when it's Phoebe in the car, you only get shots of her looking down, like possessed inside of the van. Yeah. And as it's going away, you can't see Vivian when it's driving away. You can only see Phoebe, who's just looking like she's sat possessed, kind of like a psycho kind of thing. Yeah. So I wonder whether that was it, as in like she kills her, the police show up, they stop, and then that's a kind of it was more of a psycho kind of ending. Maybe, just added the screaming over the top. They've added the part with Vivian going in and the screaming. They've edited it like that to make it look like those two things are one.
Maybe that's
two separate shots. Kind of
thing. It would be interesting to know, because I did enjoy it, despite its very, very odd kind of ending and its inability to really commit to whether it wants to be a slasher or kind of a demonic possession.
It is one of the weird tonal mismatches though, where I think weirdly, even with the tonal all over the place, it kind of is still fun. Whereas sometimes that tonal thing completely fun. Like you would just get to a point of like, oh, I'm done with this.
This is dog shit.
This is just shit. Like it's not. the demon possession slasher horror comedy is not something that people do very often, because generally that's just not something that works, kind of thing. And there are elements of this having a slasher film where it's revealed, as I said, the person's jumping from people to kill them, kind of thing, is a kind of a cool twist.
Yeah,
like that could work in a horror film if it's set up and that sounds like it matches the rest of it.
Yeah,
which it doesn't. Like, it doesn't if you sell it as a straight-laced, like, this is a standard slasher film, and then at the end you go, it's actually about demons who possess you and they jump from body to body. That's when you're watching a normal one. If you watch like Scream 4 and they were like, by the way, this time there's a possession, I mean, that's probably Scream 8.
That probably is. That's the way it's going.
But still, you would be like, what the fuck? This does not match with the rest of the film.
Not one
at
bit.
all. Like, you can't just suddenly go, there's supernatural in just a standard slasher film and then go, by the way. And slasher films have done this several times, where they've done that. But most of the time it's a tonal, like, what the fuck. But weirdly with this film, I didn't find that completely just ruined it, the fact that she suddenly was, because there was enough of a little hints that this was not quite your standard slasher throughout.
Yeah,
that it kind of worked. But yeah, I found this to be fun. It is definitely 100%. It's imperfect. It sadly sounds like there's been a lot of fucking around with the film that has kind of brought it down a bit. But the general thing, the meta opening is a lot of fun. The characters I actually really like. I like the trio. Even some of the pranky stuff. Didn't mention about the rape, basically, which is Martin. Martin comes out with a girl who's left by the party by herself. Like, one girl says she's leaving, so a couple of people do get out there because they say they're going. And then there's the one girl who's like smoking outside, and then Martin comes out in his drag that they've snuck him in drag to make him look like one of the girls. And he's like, I can't find my girls, my beautiful sets of girls. They're all gone away from me. That's basically what he does. And then he basically goes to her and like, all I want is those girls. And she's like, oh, well, I'm going. And she walks off and he's like, but don't get away from me. And he runs off. And then all we hear off screen, and we never see these characters again, is basically her going, what are you doing? No, get off me. And then screaming, basically. So
it's the 80s.
It's the 80s. It's 80s hijinks. He's just taking her behind her butt. But
yeah,
I was just there like, fucking hell. That like, just, all that sounded like was a guy who literally was just like, all he was doing was trying to find a woman, basically, to like hunt her down. And then suddenly he finds one girl by himself who barely seems like she even knows him, and then all we hear is him chasing after her like, come for me. Like, I was like, this is maybe the most rapey I've seen in like the one of these 80s ones, where it literally sounds like Martin after this was probably dragged away by actually no, it's the 80s, so nothing happened to him.
Yeah, nothing happened to him. He's fine. He had a great career.
It was just her that had a fucking shitty life because of him.
It's the 80s. That's how it is.
It's the 80s. Yeah.
But no, I think that wraps it up quite nicely.
It does, yeah. Wrap it up with that.
Wrap it up with that. That's the way. That's the 80s, man.
Yeah, so if you're in a sorority, wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up. There you go. And if you want to join the Cast Me to Hell sorority, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, make your pledge, and leave us a lovely review. We've got plenty of more fun films coming up for you. Come and let us know your thoughts on Killer Party. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at CMTH Podcast. As always, play us out, fellas.